You're watching KSG News, where you get all the latest updates from across the globe to help with your exam preparations. Begin with GS Paper 3. A parliamentary panel has recommended that the stressed assets of banks must be transferred to the proposed bad bank at book value, as the more time such assets are left on the lender's balance sheet, the more is the prospect of their value eroding. The Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance said that the bad bank, which will be owned by both public and private sector banks, will help in saving time and avoiding delays in resolving soured loans through consolidated decision making. Now, what does this mean? The Union Budget 2021 to 2022 proposed setting up an asset reconstruction and asset management company led by banks to take on and consolidate the existing stressed debt, which would manage and dispose the assets to alternate investment funds. The panel urged the Reserve Bank of India to clearly define every step of the procedure to remove any ambiguity or discretion from the bank's side. RBI can play an instrumental role in the success of bad bank if they issue an order or notification which makes the entire process crystal clear, defining each step of the procedure, thus removing any ambiguity or discretion from the bank's side. A regulatory intervention at this stage will further streamline and add more pace to resolution of stressed assets, the report said. The RBI needs to demonstrate why their proposed rules for loss transfer to the ARC and AMC are in fact the best approach. Their rules should reflect both administrative clarity as well as economic logic. The RBI should intervene as soon as possible to unlock value from non-performing assets. More updates related to GS Paper 3. Renewables in electricity must increase 55-fold for India to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. This, according to a report by Council on Energy, Environment and Water. India will need to generate at least 83% of its electricity from non-hydropower renewable energy sources by 2050 to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by mid-century, according to the study. Now, what does this mean and what is the significance of this? Now, this would mean that a massive 55-fold increase in the use of non-hydro renewables in electricity generation within the coming 3 decades, from only 160 terawatt-hour in 2019. Further, to achieve net zero by 2050, the share of electricity in India's industrial energy use must rise threefold, from 20.3% in 2018 to 70% in 2050. The study, Peaking and Net Zero for India's Energy Sector CO2 Emissions and Analytical Exposition, revealed. The share of electric vehicles in passenger car sales will also have to rise to 76% by 2050 from just 0.1% in 2019. These estimates are based on CEEW's best understanding of progress on mitigation technologies. To meet net zero, India will need to either eliminate greenhouse gas emissions or balance these by sequestering GHG or the greenhouse gas emissions. Advanced economies, including China, Japan, the UK, and the US, will have taken at least 30 and at times well over 40 years for this transition. Advanced economies peaked emissions at much higher levels of development, slower rates of growth, and would have had longer transition periods. Now, why India's net zero pathways for other countries? First, the per capita emissions for all other economies in their respective peaking years would be much higher than India's, even if it were to peak in 2050. Secondly, India's real GDP growth rate would be much higher than any other country post their peaking years. This indicates that India would need to put in significantly more effort to peak and subsequently reduce the emissions. Thirdly, India will have a much lower per capita income to support the transition, even if it began the post-peak transition in 2050, let alone 2030. The study also found that if India were to peak in 2030 and reach net zero in 2060 like China, its cumulative carbon emissions in 2021 to 2100 would be 80 GT CO2. For the same period, China and US's cumulative carbon emissions, even after incorporating their net zero ambition, would be 349 GT CO2 and 104 GTCO2 respectively. According to the World Bank, India's per capita carbon dioxide emissions stood at 1.82 TCO2 in 2016, much lower than the global average of 4.55 TCO2. Shifting focus to GS Paper 2. On the 22nd of March, the Lok Sabha passed a bill to replace an over 9-decade-old law governing lighthouses. The Marine Aids to Navigation Bill 2021 seeks to provide for a fresh framework to establish and manage vessel traffic services, besides changing the use of the term Marine Aids to Navigation. Shipping and Waterways Minister Mansukh Mandavia said the government plans to turn old lighthouses into tourist destinations to showcase the country's rich history in navigation. The country has 195 lighthouses. Now, ship recycling in the country will be doubled in the near future as it has generated direct and indirect employment opportunities. The bill also seeks to rename the existing post of Director General of Lighthouse and Lightships to Director General to provide a framework for establishment, operation and management of vessel traffic services. It aims at repealing the Colonial Lighthouse Act 1927 and provides for empowering the Directorate General of Lighthouses and Lightships with additional power and functions. The bill provides for empowering the DGLL with additional power and functions such as vessel traffic service, wreck flagging, training and certification, implementation of other obligations under international conventions where India is a signatory. It comprises a new schedule of offences along with commensurate penalties for obstructing and damaging the aids to navigation and non-compliance with directives issued by the central government and other bodies. With the advent of modern, technologically improved aids to maritime navigation, the role of authorities regulating and operating maritime navigation has changed drastically. The proposed legislation encompasses a major shift from lighthouses to modern aids of navigation. Shifting focus to updates related to GS Paper 1, the Gandhi Peace Prize for the year 2020 is being conferred on Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the Culture Ministry said on 22nd of March. The prestigious prize for the year 2019 is being conferred on late Sultan Qaboos bin Said Al Said of Oman in recognition of his vision to strengthen relations with India and his efforts to promote peace and non-violence in the Gulf region. Now, what is this all about? The Gandhi Peace Prize is an annual award instituted by the Government of India in 1995, the 125th birth anniversary commemoration year of Mahatma Gandhi. The award is open to all people regardless of nationality, race, language, caste, creed or sex. The jury for Gandhi Peace Prize is chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and comprises two ex-officio members, namely the Chief Justice of India and the leader of the single largest opposition party in the Lok Sabha. The jury met on 19th of March and after due deliberations unanimously decided to select Bangladesh's father of the nation Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and Oman's long-time ruler Sultan Qaboos for the prize. The award carries an amount of 1 crore rupees, a citation, plaque and an exquisite traditional handicraft or handloom item. Recent awardees of the Gandhi Peace Prize include Vivekananda Kendra India, Akshay Patra Foundation, India and Sulabh International, Ekal Abhiyan Trust, India and Yohei Sasakawa, Japan. That's it in this edition of KSG News. Stay tuned for more such short, concise and informative videos. KSG India proudly announces the commencement of centre batches for offline coaching at Delhi, Vijayanagar, Delhi, Rajendra Nagar, Jaipur, Bhopal and Indore centres, making sure students' health and safety and also the targeted approach towards UPSC Civil Services examination preparation. Visit www.ksgindia.com for batch queries.